Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So this week we have started pre-production on my next Naval Academy photo shoot, and in looking at it, it's kind of brought back a lot of memories in regards to my past shoots with the Naval Academy, and going through these emotions and everything that it takes to plan for one of these shoots. I thought that I might share some of that with y'all, and looking back at my previous shoots in the Naval Academy and things that I've learned and that I'm trying to remind myself this week as we go into next week for the next photo shoot for the uniform for the Army-Navy game. So it's one of those things where the locations are always highly unique and they are locations that I really don't have a chance to pre-scout. The creative, once again, is highly ambitious as usual. And on top of that, there's a lot of pressure to create something that lives up to what I've created in the past. With all that being said, I just thought we would look back at the first shoot I did with them. We were out in a river during a tropical storm, no less, so driving rain in a river. Then look at the shoot for the Marines, where we were just in a wooded forest, basically. The next shoot was out at sea on an aircraft carrier, of all places. And then last year's shoot, where it was the first time I'd been on set with a huge LED wall. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, keep watching, because we're going to jump right into it. First thing, I just want to say that I've got all of these shoots have dedicated videos here on the YouTube channel, and I will link those as we get to each one of these shoots. So if you happen to have not seen them before, you can go back and watch a full recount of what I'll be referencing here in much more detail. Today I just kind of want to run through these, maybe present some of the things that I remember and lessons learned going through these photo shoots and kind of getting through to the other side. And I just feel like that might be the biggest lesson here for this video for y'all watching when you are maybe getting into a ambitious photo shoot of your own. Secondly, and something that started this whole chain of photo shoots, and it's the topic of my previous video regarding relationships, and that might be the main theme. Obviously, I don't make the main theme 2 videos in a row, but none of these photo shoots would have occurred had I not formed a relationship with a member of a creative staff from a just happened to be like a professional team that I worked with some years before. That person then moved to become the head of creative at the Naval Academy. They apparently were impressed enough with my work and work ethic, and I guess had enough fun, and we just had a great shoot with the team that she was a part of. And so when she was in this position, thought of me, of bringing me in to help her create these visuals for her first year when it came to the campaign for the Army-Navy game. So there and again, it kind of just goes right back to that theme from my previous video. Do good work and be a pleasure to work with, and magical things can happen in your career in this business. So now let's jump into, we're just going to run through and order the shoots. The first shoot was a water-based theme for the uniform. Obviously they're the Naval Academy, so they're on ships and all that, and so there's a lot of water involved with the Navy, and that first uniform had a lot to do with that and some other elements around campus. But all kind of directing back to this water theme. So we ended up finding ourselves in the river outside the academy there, and to add to the effect, not in our control, was a tropical storm system that was blowing through there and dumping rain pretty much the entire time that we were supposed to be shooting. So there were a lot of elements to, no pun intended, to overcome to get this shoot to actually happen. And one of them, big one there, was the rain and exposing my gear to rain. And that's kind of where it was just a matter of rolling the dice and going for it. Fortunately, we had some Ziploc bags that we were able to use over my strobes, and cross fingers that nothing I guess got wet enough to where they would quit working and potentially be completely ruined. Cameras are water sealed for the most part, but then I was getting water on my lens, and halfway through the shoot I just gave up trying to wipe the water off my lens. And actually that aspect and some of the final images really added to what we ended up with. And the main thing I take from that shoot is just the feeling when I got there on the bank of the Severn River. And it's really, if you're there in daylight, which we got there before sunset, and it is where we were, I mean, it's pretty and everything, but it's not all that impressive as far as in my head trying to visualize this photo shoot. And as I mentioned kind of in the beginning of this video, this was not a location that I was able to pre-scout. And so it was kind of this sinking feeling in me, like, how am I going to make this happen? And it was just a matter of kind of pushing that feeling aside. And that's kind of a theme with these shoots. It's just trying to deal with the pressure of the moment and just kind of going with it, going with the flow, relying on what I've learned through the years and using strobes in this case and the camera. And I will say technological advancements with cameras really helped in this case. With this is one of the first, well, not one. This is one of the first shoots with the R5. It is the first shoot I use in such a low light level with the R5, and using the focus tracking with that camera made things a heck of a lot easier than it would have a couple years previous. So I'm going to point those factors out. So gear in a lot of cases, the evolution of gear and stuff like that has made some of these shots not just possible, but easier to pull off. But along with that, it took me trying to figure out angles of types of things where I am focusing on the player, the uniform, the elements, the water, and it quickly became apparent that I was going to have to get in the water with our player, and just because the angles that we needed, I was going to have to kind of basically get in there and shoot in the water, across the water from our player, and that's how some of these magical images happened. And at the end of the day, it's something I really didn't even think about. Just the next thing I knew, I was up to my thighs in the river taking some pictures, and as you can see some of the results that I'm going to play across here, that was definitely worth it. But I will never forget that feeling when I first got out there on that beach of just wondering, how in the heck am I going to make this work? So that's my main memory from that. My main takeaway is just kind of going with it and just getting into the flow and trying to wipe that worry out, and hoping as you're moving through the photo shoot that things just start to happen based off of your experiences in the past and what you can draw from to get you from point A to point B. All right, the next shoot was the Marines focused uniform that Navy was going to wear against the Air Force a couple seasons ago. And this was another setting where we had no scouting. This was a wooded area. It's actually behind someone's house. And it was like just maybe a half acre of woods. And on the outsides of that were homes and fences and stuff like that. It was a lot to take in when the sun was up, and trying to figure out how best to position the camera to where you don't see any of that type of stuff, and it really looks like we're in a jungle type setting, and that's kind of what we're going after. And I will say too that this was the creative concepts for a lot of these kind of flow based off of what we can get access to. And I know the original concept, we were supposed to have access to some Marine Osprey aircraft, but that didn't end up happening, so we had to go to plan B, which was this jungle type setting. And I just remember once again trying to remind me kind of the beach there on the river. But just being in this wooded area, trying to figure out camera angles, lenses, what I could do to make this type of image work. And when the sun went down, we brought in the lights and brought in the smoke, and were able to create some really cool images. One of them is probably one of my favorites that I've done for the Academy up to now. And the lesson too is I have to say that within all these shoots, I am jockeying back and forth with a video crew, and they're capturing their content and I'm capturing mine. And we have to kind of choreograph, who goes when and where, and then we both try to stay out of each other's way. At the same time, we are both headed for the same directive, and we're trying to achieve the same goals with, incredible video content as well as still content. And I had kind of captured my stuff on the front end at this location, and the video team was doing their stuff, and I could have easily packed up all my gear and just called it a day. But what I ended up doing is just sticking on, hanging with my camera. When shooting on a video set, normally I'll kind of switch to like a 70 to 200 where I can stay out of the way of that crew, but I can still capture some stuff. And then changing the settings in my camera allow me to capture some constant light type work instead of using my strobes. And sometimes I can add a little strobe in too if it might add to the effect, which I believe it did in this one if I remember correctly. But my point here is I kept my camera on me and was able to capture a whole different set, or a whole set of images that had a different look and feel from the ones that I choreographed at the beginning of this particular shoot. And that allowed the Academy, my client at the time, to have basically two completely different looking image sets to use to promote the uniform and the game. And at the end of the day, they were real happy with that. So that's kind of the lesson I learned on this shoot, was to, in this type of case, keep shooting, keep working. Just because maybe you already have everything in the can that would have been 100% acceptable, there wasn't a reason for me not to really do it unless I just kind of wanted to get all my stuff out, which I didn't do. And I kept shooting and really captured some cool images from their setup. All right, the next shoot, which was my third, and probably without a doubt the most ambitious of all of them, considering we were on an aircraft carrier out in the Atlantic Ocean. And that was obviously just an incredible experience, just to be brought onto a ship like that, a working naval ship, an aircraft carrier of all things, where planes taking off, planes landing, and just to be in that mix we were out there for 3 days, was pretty doggone amazing. And that kind of goes back to, and I've made videos about this in the past, where you look down at the camera when you're in a location like that, and you're like, it's just amazing where something like your camera, where it can take you. And our creativity and our cameras put us onto an aircraft carrier, which was insane. But along with that, and the thing I guess I really take back from that shoot, what I learned going through that, is there was so much planning. This was an extreme environment. This was a overwhelming location, and there was a lot of pressure to, at least probably more so, just put on myself to deliver some images. I mean, we had been working on this photo shoot for probably 9 months, and it's a lot to handle when you're there, and it's all on you to create some images. And we're basically at the mercy of whatever weather is thrown at us out on this ship. So, and then to top all that off, when we got out there for our shoot, something in the tower was affecting my Canon R5s, some of the radar stuff, and my cameras were constantly locking up, getting scrambled. And it was just where I would have these brief, once I realized what was going on, I would just have these intermittent periods of time where I was able to actually capture images. Before then, I would have to basically turn the camera off, pull out the batteries, all that kind of stuff, and restart everything, and then start capturing images again, which on top of everything was a lot to a lot to handle. But then it's, looking back on it, it's hard. It's easier said than done when you find yourself in these positions, but it's just a matter of I guess breathing, taking in the moment. Kind of goes back to these other setups where I get there, I'm like, holy cow, how are we gonna do what we need to do here to create these visuals that should represent this the Naval Academy and their uniform at this game. So it's a matter, I guess, just breathing, getting back into the flow of things. Try not to let the moment be too big for what you're there to do, and just create. Just dive into it and kind of get in that flow. Even after the ship, we were then our second setup was in a F-18 hangar with F-18s as the backdrop for a lighting setup, which I'm more comfortable. I'm more in control of that setup, but still, it was pretty wild to be in that kind of a setting for a photo shoot. But once again, it was just a matter of kind of putting your head down, doing what you know how to do, and letting it happen, and not being too caught up into everything else that was going on around the situation. That's probably the number one thing that I take from having that experience on the aircraft carrier, and really capturing some memorable images on a most memorable photo shoot. And then that brings me to the fourth and the final, or up to this point, final photo shoot for the Academy, which was last season. And this was a whole nother setup, which I had never been, I've never had experience with. And this was in a studio with a LED screen. And that was something that I remember from my first couple of test images, using that screen, and then just in my head going, how am I gonna make this work? And this takes me to the lesson I pretty much learned on this shoot, and that is to be as prepared as possible for these shoots. And I had just recently gotten the lens, the 28-70, the f2 lens, which allows me to drop off the depth of field pretty extremely. And you can do it with some other lenses, some prime lenses mainly, like the 50s and the 85s and stuff like that. But I had this one, and I brought it. I can still remember when I was packing my bag, and it occurred to me that I might need a shallow depth of field for this photo shoot, and looking at, I guess, some images of the studio, and then some images that I'd seen kind of taken at other studios similar to this. And there can be banding on the backgrounds if it is not shallow enough. And my goal in all these shoots is to capture the best image in camera and try not to rely on post-processing to get my images where I need them to go. And in order to do that, I quickly realized that I was going to have to shoot pretty much wide open at f2 on my camera. And so I had started, I believe, with like the 2.8 lens, the 24-70 2.8, and I'm pretty sure I had the 70-200, and I tried that as well. And after some test shots, and I quickly switched to the 28-70, opened that sucker all the way up, and used that for probably 95% of the shots that you see that were put out last year, and probably that I'm showing here in this video. So that was another instance where technology, and obviously there's some f2 lenses way before this one came out, but it's where I was putting that to use in conjunction with my camera, and then just overall being prepared for the shoot before I even got there, just putting in some homework. And that's kind of what I'm being approached with now in this pre-production for our shoot next week, because we're going into a location that I don't know if there's ever been any type of commercial style photo shoot, and I've got no idea what we're going to be getting into. And it's just so reminiscent of all these other photo shoots, and that's why I want to make this video with the points that I can take from each one of these experiences and apply them to next week's photo shoot, hopefully. So if I were to focus on the takeaways from these earlier, I guess 4 earlier photo shoots with the Naval Academy while I'm getting prepped for my next one, the first one would be to cultivate relationships. And none of these would have happened, including like next week's wouldn't have happened, which is with a whole different creative team that I worked with last year, if I didn't take time to cultivate those relationships. Second would be prepared. Do what you can to maybe decide on the types of gear you're going to take. Taking into whatever you can formulate for the locations and the type of shots you're going to need to capture. The third would be to trust your instincts. Don't get out there and freak out like I was on the verge of for basically all these photo shoots. But trust your instincts. Just kind of get into the flow with it and let things happen. And fourth, and probably the thing I haven't really focused on yet, but it was collaborating with the other creatives there, even like the video crew. I'll talk to the director, the creative director for the video team, and kind of get his thoughts on what he's thinking, that type of thing. That takes the pressure off, and you've got kind of a partner in all this. Even the assistants and the creative directors, the people from the academy, just kind of get their thoughts on what they're feeling and that type of thing. And that seems, for me, it releases that pressure off of me and allows me to kind of do what it is that I need to do. But don't take that for granted. I mean, those people are there at a certain level. We're all like-minded. We're all there to focus on the same objective. So don't be afraid to ask questions of them and get their thoughts and insights and go back and forth. And it's the truest sense of collaboration. And that is probably one of the most rewarding parts of these photo shoots, is collaborating with these other creatives and all creating a piece that comes together in the end that we're all proud of. So if you can relate and you found this video helpful, please hit that thumbs up. You'll see more content just like this in the future. Hit that subscribe button down there and the little bell so YouTube will let you know when I'm back on here. Share this video too if you know some other photographers that could benefit from it. And share maybe some of your experiences down below in the comments that you can relate to in regards to photo shoots like I've been sharing on here. And in the meantime, y'all can find me on social media at quantzphoto on Instagram and X, as well as ProLightMods on Instagram. Y'all please stay safe and healthy out there, and I will see y'all again soon in the next one.